Hey everyone, what's going on? This is Waseem from the channel Handsome Smiles. Thank you for joining me on another fragrance review. Today I'm going to be doing a review of Thebes. This one is Thebes Grade 1. It's from the house of Sultan Pasha. So Thebes has two grades, 1 and 2. The one I'm talking about today is Grade 1. This is classified as a floral according to Fragrantica and was released in 2016. The nose behind the scent is of course Sultan Pasha, an independent perfumer based here in London in the UK. He's a self-taught perfumer and is renowned for creating some of the most complex and artistic attars out there, from sourcing various very rare and very high quality ingredients. So Thebes is an interesting attar in the sense that it has a very unique backstory. So from the research that I carried out when reviewing this fragrance and testing this fragrance, reading online, reading some material, I found that this was inspired by Deji, a discontinued old fragrance by the House of Guerlain. Sultan Pasha, some time ago, he was visiting a famous establishment in Paris and he smelt Deji for the first time. And when he first initially smelt Deji, he was in a group of other people as well, and Sultan Pasha found himself being separated by these people, and he started to ponder and think. This fragrance made him think, and one of the sources that I read online said that Sultan Pasha, when he smelt this, he thought of Napoleon back in France, thinking about what he's going to do in his battles. And this fragrance, Thebes, when he smelt Deji by Guerlain for the first time, for Sultan Pasha, it was the first time and the only time where a fragrance has brought him close to tears. So he had quite a very intense experience smelling Deji by Guerlain, and because of that experience, Sultan Pasha, he tried to recreate that fragrance by working for many months, toiling at night, trying to recreate Deji by Guerlain and that experience that he got in Paris. And this is what he created, Thebes. And he put so much effort into recreating this fragrance because he really wanted this to be a signature fragrance for himself. So this is one of his most personal creations, it seems. So I've got a bit of a draw down here. Let's talk about the notes of Thebes. So at the top we're going to get bergamot, lily of the valley, aldehydes and Persian rose ottar. The heart of the fragrance is orris butter, Bulgarian rose absolute, jasmine, glandiflorum absolute and musk. And the base of the fragrance is vetiver, amber, ambergris, musk and animalics. So those were the notes of Thebes, but what do we really get on our skin? The opening for me is really about this very warm, glow, waxy, creamy, slightly powdery iris note. The opening for me really gives off a marzipan quality, and the opening few stages of this scent is very much about the orris butter and the iris. It's creamy, it's powdery, it's waxy, it's got this lovely floral warm glow, and it has a warm spiciness to it as well. And like I've said, the iris really dominates in the first few stages, and it's during this stage that it really reminds me of another creation from the house of Sultan Pasha, which is called Iris Soir. And Iris Soir is one of the best iris fragrances out there, and like the name suggests, it's an iris dominant scent. And the waxy quality, warm spicy iris powderiness that you pick up in Iris Soir is what I get here as well. Iris Soir is one of my favourite iris fragrances, by the way, one of my favourite fragrances from the house of Sultan Pasha. I've reviewed it on my channel and gave it a perfect score of 10 out of 10. So that's what I get in the opening stages, and this fragrance, Thebes, has two stages for me. The first stage, like I've said, is dominated by the iris, waxy, creamy, powdery, has a warm glow, like I've said. And in the dry down, part 2, the second stage of this fragrance, is where this fragrance really changes. It's like day and night, the change between the two. And in the dry down, you start picking up this very deep, dark, leathery, animalic accord, and this deep, dark, animalic, leathery accord, which is introduced in the dry down, it really adds a little character to this fragrance. It really changes it and gives it some depth to this composition. The powdery iris that you pick up in the opening is still at the forefront. It's still the main player for me. However, it's joined by that leathery animalicness in the background, and like I've said, the addition of that leathery animalic, it starts giving this composition a deeper and darker sort of feel. The dry down for me, the way I would describe it, it's like walking through an Egyptian tomb. It's very warm, it's quite muggy, it's quite humid in there. It's got this musty, slightly dusty sort of smell. That's the sort of image that conjures up. Smelling this, you get this powderiness from the iris, some waxiness, but you also pick up this deep, dark, leathery animalicness. And like I've said, it smells like you're walking in an Egyptian tomb. This fragrance, from what I've read online, people really describe this Thebes as a fragrance which smells like death and decay, and it's quite it's not like a happy fragrance, it's a fragrance which is quite sad. This is what people have said, but I have to disagree with that. I just did not pick that up at all. I didn't pick up death, I didn't pick up decay, and I didn't feel sad wearing this at all. For me, this was really about the iris, which really dominated this scent. And because of the backstory of this fragrance, where Sultan Pasha was creating it because he had such a strong experience smelling a fragrance in Paris, and people saying that this was him trying to create a signature fragrance for himself, people saying that this smelled like death and decay, and many people giving this very glowing high praises and saying it's one of their favourite Sultan Pasha. My expectations for this oil before I tested it were through the roof. I was really expecting to be blown away, and after testing this, I have to admit I was very underwhelmed. I think the expectations just wasn't met for me, and the scent itself, yeah, definitely the quality is there, like you would expect at this price point and from Sultan Pasha, using the ingredients that he has and the artistic fragrances that he creates. Like, I can't deny that the fragrance is of good quality, but this fragrance just didn't speak to me, and I felt quite underwhelmed by it. The opening, especially when I was getting that strong iris quality, and it reminded me of Iris Soir. I was just thinking, I've smelt something like this before, and for me Iris Soir is a much more superior fragrance in my opinion. If I wanted an iris based Attar from Sultan Pasha, I'll go with Iris Soir rather than Thebes. And the dry down, even though it's quite interesting, especially the image that conjures up walking through a Egyptian tomb, for me it just didn't have enough for me that it really spoke to me. And another reason why this fragrance was quite underwhelming for me was due to its performance. Now, the first 2 hours or so, the projection on this is excellent, it's quite strong. However, after the 2-hour mark, it sits much closer to the skin and becomes pretty much a skin scent, which I find hard to quite detect on myself. So I believe I might have quite poor skin chemistry for this Attar. And in terms of longevity, it lasted on my skin around 5 hours. In terms of final overall rating for Thebes, I'm going to give it a rating of 6 out of 10. Like I've said, the quality is undeniable. Excellent quality, ingredients scream quality. It's well made, it's artistic, and I appreciate the backstory of this fragrance. But the scent itself, it didn't speak to me, and the performance on my skin wasn't the best. But I really do recommend you get a sample if you are interested, because a lot of people have been singing its praises, and it just might be my skin chemistry and my personal taste where this didn't work for me. However, I feel like it might work for you because this one is loved by so many people. So guys, overall rating of 6 out of 10. I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you have, please do leave me a like and a comment below, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do. I'll be bringing you a lot more reviews from the house of Sultan Pasha, as well as some other Attar and Oud houses in the coming weeks. Until then, my friends, see you later.